Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My dear brothers and sisters, I greet you with the greeting of peace from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from all of us here at Masjid As-Siddiq, to everyone that's joining us tonight and this evening. I begin by first praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alhamdulillah. Indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only one worthy of praise. It is He that we worship. He is our nourisher, our sustainer, our provider, and the one who is the only one who can enter us into Jannatul Firdaus, into paradise. And we send salutations on our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This evening, we're about to have a really interesting discussion. We're going to take a break from some of the normal, heavier material in terms of reminders about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this beautiful deen, but also connect as part of our deen. We want to make sure that we are educating ourselves, educating our neighbors, our friends, to understand some of the rules and regulations with regards to where we live. We're living in the United States, and the laws are constantly changing. And even if the laws are the same, the executives, those that are in charge of running the country, have some different implementations in how they implement the laws. And so tonight we're really fortunate to have with us representatives from CAIR, New York. CAIR is a friend of Masjid As-Siddiq, and we're indeed honored to have them partnering with us in delivering this very informative message to you. And we hope that you all can benefit from it. CAIR New York does a lot of work within the New York area in terms of protecting the civil liberties and the rights of all Americans, but specifically also looking at the interest for Muslims. And we'll have a little bit more about CAIR as we go through the presentation this evening. So tonight I want to introduce to you Sister Fatema Bhalloo. Sister Fatema is currently a junior at New York University. She's a student of politics, rights, and development. She has been working to help those that are in need to be able to educate society and better serve the world that she lives in. So she's been a part of the work that CAIR is doing. And so we're indeed honored to have her here with us this evening. So I will, without further ado, introduce you to Sister Fatema. Sister Fatema.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you everybody for being here today, and thank you for that great introduction. So I will be showing you guys a presentation that CAIR has partnered up with the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs to hold. So this is a Know Your Rights workshop. So thank you everybody for coming. Before we start, I would just like to make it clear that I am not a lawyer, and this presentation is an education guide to help you learn about your rights as immigrant New Yorkers and services that are available to you. It is not meant to serve as legal advice. Also, if I'm talking too fast, please write down in the chat that I am, and I will inshallah slow down. And inshallah this is informative and educational for everybody. You can click on the next slide. So just a little bit about CAIR. So we are a Muslim civil rights organization offering both direct legal services and grassroots advocacy pertaining to discrimination, hate crimes, and Islamophobia. We also do mobilizations like rallies and protests. We concentrate on civic engagement like GOTV efforts. And we also work with media to challenge stereotypical narratives of Muslims and Islam. We invite them to learn more about our organization, including opportunities for internships and fellowships at the college and graduate level, and even volunteer opportunities starting at the high school level. And if you'd like to know more, you can check us out on www.cair-ny.org. Next slide, please. So today we will be learning about your rights as immigrants in New York City. We will also cover updates on policy changes such as DACA, temporary protected status, the travel ban, and public charge. Please make sure to ask any questions, anything you need clarifications on, or if you'd like extra information sheets, please let us know as well. We have them available in multiple languages. Our objectives for today are first to learn about recent changes to federal immigration policies that may affect you. Second, to learn how to identify and interact with federal immigration officers in public and private spaces. Third, to learn how to access free and safe legal services and resources. And lastly, to learn about COVID-19 treatment and testing. So first, we will be learning about immigration enforcement actions and how we can be prepared. Immigration enforcement actions are when ICE enforces immigration laws, such as conducting investigations or making arrests. Regardless of your immigration status, it is important to know your rights when interacting with ICE in order to keep yourself and your community safe. So some terms that are important for us to know, since they come up a lot in the presentation and will be useful when dealing with these issues. Again, if I'm speaking too fast, please let us know in the comments or send in a question, and inshallah, I can slow down. Our first term is the Department of Homeland Security, or DHS. DHS is the federal agency that oversees immigration matters and anything to do with the United States citizenship and immigration services. This is part of DHS as well. Next, we have ICE. ICE stands for U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. ICE is a federal agency with DHS that enforces immigration law. A lawful permanent resident, or LPR, is a person that has been officially granted the right to reside permanently in the U.S., which includes permission to work in the U.S., and LPRs are sometimes referred to as green card holders. An undocumented person is someone without legal immigration status living in the U.S., including people who overstay after entering on a visa. Our next term is public areas. A public area is a space where anyone can go. Examples of this are a retail store or a supermarket or a convenience store. A public building could be a library or a government building, or it could be the street or a sidewalk. There are also private areas. A private area is a space that is not generally accessible by members of the public, such as your home or an employee-only area at a workplace. And lastly, we have warrants. A warrant is an official document that gives government agents certain permissions, and we will discuss the different types of warrants and their uses later in the presentation. In the last 3+ years, there have been a lot of changes to federal immigration policies. They can happen quickly and be confusing. We're going to go over and cover the most up-to-date information on some of these major policy changes. So first is DACA, or Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. DACA is a federal immigration program that began in 2012 under President Obama that helps undocumented immigrants who came to the U.S. as young people. DACA provides eligible undocumented immigrants with temporary protection from deportation and access to work authorization. Currently, the federal government must continue to accept renewal DACA applications only. The government is not accepting new applications. Since taking office, President Biden has issued a memorandum encouraging the Attorney General and Secretary of Homeland Security to do everything in their power to preserve and fortify the DACA program. If you have any questions about how this may affect you, you can call the Action NYC hotline at 1-800-354-0365. The next big policy change we will talk about is the travel ban. The travel ban puts varying travel and immigration restrictions on certain people from 13 designated countries by barring visa issuance and/or entry into the U.S. There are some exceptions. The countries currently affected by the ban are Iran, Libya, North Korea, Syria, Venezuela, Yemen, Somalia, Nigeria, Eritrea, Kyrgyzstan, Myanmar or Burma, as well as Tanzania and Sudan. Since taking office, President Biden repealed the travel bans that restricted entry into the U.S. for people primarily from the Muslim and African countries of Eritrea, Iran, Kyrgyzstan, Libya, Myanmar, Nigeria, North Korea, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, Tanzania, Venezuela, and Yemen. This is effective January 20th, 2021. And means all embassies and consulates must allow people who were previously banned from obtaining visas to apply and go through the process, and enable those who were denied a visa an opportunity to reapply or reopen their case. The third major policy change we're covering is temporary protected status. Temporary protected status, or TPS, allows individuals from certain countries to remain in the U.S. if it is unsafe for them to return to their home country due to a humanitarian emergency there. For example, the federal government may designate a country for TPS if there's an armed conflict like a civil war or a natural disaster like an earthquake. TPS enables recipients to work in the U.S. lawfully and protects them from deportation as long as the TPS designation is in effect. The following countries are currently designated for TPS: El Salvador, Haiti, Honduras, Nepal, Nicaragua, Somalia, Sudan, South Sudan, Syria, and Yemen. The future of TPS for many countries of these countries are not certain. People should make sure to get the most up-to-date information about TPS designations. The fourth federal policy is public charge. The Trump administration has announced a rule change that may impact when a non-citizen is considered a public charge for immigration purposes. The rule makes it harder for some people to get green cards or visas because some immigrants must show that they will not be a public charge in their immigration applications. This test only applies in certain situations, including when someone is applying for a green card or if they are extending certain visas. And it only applies to some categories of people applying for green cards or visas. When the test applies, federal immigration law allows immigration officials to deny green cards and visas if they find that an applicant is likely to become a public charge. It is important to note that this rule came into effect on February 24th, 2020. This rule does not change eligibility requirements for public benefit programs. Getting care, treatment, or testing for COVID will not make you a public charge or hurt your ability to apply for a green card. Getting charity or discounted medical care will also not hurt your ability to apply for a green card. There is no public charge test when green card holders apply for citizenship. So seek care without fear. Immigrant New Yorkers who are concerned about changes to the public charge rule could impact them or their loved ones can get help making the best decisions for themselves and their families. And you can get informed by speaking to a lawyer. You can also call the Action NYC hotline at 1-800-354-0365 and say public charge. Again, if you or someone you know might need legal assistance related to TPS, travel ban, DACA, or public charge, call 311 and say Action NYC for free and safe immigration legal help. A very important thing to know if you interact with ICE is that they are not local police officers from the NYPD. This is important to know because the NYPD does not conduct civil immigration enforcement, and you can report a crime to the NYPD and they should not ask about your immigration status. You should also know that the New York State Police do not conduct civil immigration enforcement and should not ask about your immigration status. Sometimes ICE will wear uniforms that say police on them, and this can be confusing. Some ways you can tell the difference between ICE and NYPD are their different uniforms. NYPD uniforms will usually have a patch on their arm that says City of New York on it. ICE uniforms can have a few words on them such as federal agent, police, police ICE, or HSI, which stands for Homeland Security Investigation, or ICE HSI. And you can see some of them in these pictures in the slideshow. So again, some other ways you can tell the difference is by their badges. Their badges are different. NYPD badges will say City of New York, and ICE badges will typically say ICE or Special Agent or U.S. Department of Homeland Security. Some of the places where people may interact with ICE agents are at work, in public spaces, or their homes. It is important to know your rights in each of these areas. Does anyone remember what I said about public and private areas, whether a location is private? Can someone give an example of a private or public space? Okay, that's fine. So a private space would be like your home, and a public space could be the sidewalk or a retail store. Your home or any home is a private space. The place of work can be both a public or a private space. The streets, parks, and courthouses are considered public spaces. Next slide, please. Based on a New York State courthouse rule as of April 17, 2019, law enforcement officials, including ICE agents, can no longer make arrests inside New York State courthouses without a judicial warrant or judicial order that authorizes the arrest and is signed by a judge. I'll explain more on these documents shortly. On July 22, 2020, the New York State Senate passed the Protect Our Courts Act, POCA. This act prohibits ICE and other law enforcement agencies from making civil arrests in and around New York State courthouses unless they have a judicial warrant or judicial order that authorizes the arrest and is signed by a judge. And again, I will explain these documents in a bit. There are certain types of locations where ICE typically does not conduct immigration enforcement, and these are called sensitive locations. Examples of a sensitive location would be a school or a hospital, a religious institution, or a public ceremony that would include weddings, public demonstrations, rallies, or funerals. It is important to know that this is an ICE policy and it can change at any time. ICE has a number of investigative tools and databases that are used to identify individuals who may be removable. They may know about people through a number of ways. People who have submitted an immigration application or otherwise have had interactions with the immigration systems, including at the border. Those who have been arrested and fingerprinted for a crime, even for minor crimes, and even for arrests that did not lead to a conviction and or from a long time ago. ICE has broadened the scope of its enforcement in the last couple of years. Nevertheless, the following groups of people are still in focus for arrest and removal: those pending criminal cases or prior convictions, those with an order of removal from immigration court or who have been previously removed, those who commit fraud or misrepresentation in their immigration applications, or those they believe pose a threat to public safety or national security. If ICE comes to your workplace or home, they may have a warrant. A warrant is a document issued by a government official that gives law enforcement permission to do certain things. There are different types of warrants, and each one gives ICE permission to do something specific. It is important to know what each warrant looks like. First, we have the administrative warrant. If you cannot see all the details in the screen, that's fine. I can give you a copy as a handout. Please let us know, either Masjid As-Siddiq after the presentation or in the comments, and we'll reach out to you and be able to send it to you. An administrative warrant or ICE warrant is addressed to federal immigration officers by their superiors at DHS and is used in civil immigration enforcement actions. It is signed by an ICE officer and not a judge. You can typically find the signature at the bottom. An administrative warrant does not give ICE the authority to demand entry to the private areas of a workplace or a home. Next, we have a judicial warrant. A judicial warrant is signed by a state or federal judge. A judicial warrant can give ICE permission to enter the private areas we spoke about earlier. If the ICE agent does not have a judicial warrant, they need permission expressed vocally or by action of a resident to enter a home. If the ICE agent does not have a judicial warrant, they need expressed permission of the owner, manager, or supervisor to enter the private space of a workplace. Judges have different ways of writing warrants, so they can look different depending on who wrote it. Some things you will always find are the name and signature of the judge, the name of the property they have permission to search, the date and time of the search, and obviously the location of the court. President Biden signed an executive order in his first week in office that stopped most but not all deportations from being carried out. This order went into effect on January 22nd and was supposed to be in effect for 100 days. However, a lawsuit filed by the Texas Attorney General's office was successful in temporarily stopping the moratorium from going into effect, only for a few weeks. A hearing was held on the 19th of February to decide if the temporary stopping of the moratorium will be extended. On the slide, we're going to go through some important things to know whenever you are interacting with ICE. If you are approached by a federal enforcement agent such as ICE, be aware that you have rights regardless of your immigration status. Whenever you interact with ICE, it is important to remember to stay calm. You have the right to remain silent, And if you do speak to ICE, anything you say can be used against you. You can record the situation from your phone if you feel comfortable and so long as you do not interfere with the officers. Agents may say you cannot record, but that is not true. However, if agents are trying to talk to you or arrest you, starting to continue to film may put you at risk. And people can also report the ICE activity here to this number, the Legal Aid Immigration Hotline at 1-844-955-3425, or the Immigrant Defense Project Hotline at 1-212-725-6422. If ICE is at your door, you do not have to immediately open the door for ICE, and you do not have to speak to ICE. You have the right to remain silent. If you speak to ICE, anything you say can be used against you. You can say, I do not want to talk to you right now. From behind the closed door, you may ask them who they are and to show you their badge, ID, or business card through the window or peephole, or to pass it under the closed door. You can ask ICE if they have a judicial warrant and to see the warrant through the window, peephole, or to pass it through the door. If ICE agents do not have a judicial warrant that is signed by a judge, they cannot enter your home without permission from an adult, except in emergency situations. If they do not have a judicial warrant, you may state that you do not consent to entry or search, but this does not mean you are physically allowed to resist the search. If ICE is inside your home, you can tell them clearly, I do not consent to you being in my home. Please leave. Saying this may not always stop them, but it may help any future legal case. If ICE starts to search rooms or items in your home, you can tell them, I do not consent to your search. You can continue to repeat this if they continue to search without consent. And you can tell them if there are children or other vulnerable residents in your home. If ICE can enter the public space of any workplace without needing any type of warrant. Public spaces, again, would include an office lobby, a supermarket, a retail store, or even a dining area of a restaurant. ICE cannot legally enter the private space of a workplace unless they have permission of your employer or a judicial warrant that is signed by a judge. Private spaces are employee-only areas that may include the break room or storage room of a workplace. If approached by ICE at work, you do not have to answer their questions and can direct them to your employer. Your employer can ask ICE to show their identification and ask if ICE has a judicial warrant. As always, if ICE agents try to search your pockets or belongings, you can say that you do not consent to a search. And if they search you anyway, you cannot physically stop them, but clearly saying you do not consent may be important in any future legal cases. When ICE agents arrest someone in public, it typically happens quickly. They may call your name out loud and ask you to confirm your name, and then they detain you. On the street or in public, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say to ICE can be used against you. Before responding with your name or anything else, you may ask, am I free to go? If yes, then you can say, I do not want to answer your questions and walk away. If not, you can say, I want to use my right not to answer questions. And you can also say, I want to speak to a lawyer. If an ICE officer tries to search your pockets or belongings, you can say, I do not consent to a search, but you may not physically resist the search. If you are being arrested by ICE, there are some things that you should know. ICE agents may not be able to communicate with you in your language. If you speak to ICE, anything you say to ICE can be used against you. You may choose to remain silent. You may state that you wish to speak to an attorney before saying anything or signing anything. You can tell them if you have a medical issue or need to arrange for childcare. You should not lie or give false documents. You should not physically resist. If you are being detained, people in the community may film ICE so long as they do not interfere with officers. If ICE agents are trying to talk to you or arrest you, starting or continuing to film may put you at risk. If someone you know is being detained by ICE, you can ask them where they are being taken. The detention process can be confusing, and immigration authorities may not walk you through everything, so it is important to know the information here. Again, the ICE agents may not be able to communicate with you in your language. You have the right to speak to an attorney and may ask to speak with your lawyer or take time to obtain an attorney. If you are detained, you have the right to call an attorney or your family. You have the right to be visited by an attorney in detention. You do not have to sign anything. You may ask to speak to your lawyer before signing anything. You have the right to contact your consulate and write down the name and telephone number of the deportation officer assigned to your case. Things to know if a loved one is being detained. If your loved one has been detained by ICE and you don't know where they are taken, you can find them using the ICE locator at locator.ice.gov. To use the locator, you need your loved one's country of birth and a number, or country of birth, first name, last name, which must be spelled correctly, and date of birth. It is safe to use the locator. Each ICE facility has its own rules about visitation and sending money. You can look up visitation and other information at ice.gov/detention-facilities and call the jail to confirm that the information is still correct. Generally, people who are undocumented can visit their loved ones and their immigration status will not be flagged. However, it is important to review each jail's requirements for identification and whether background checks are required. If you are worried about the risks of visiting a loved one, you should speak to an attorney. To find out when and where your loved one's next hearing will take place, you can call the EOIR hotline at 1-800-898-7180 and inputting your loved one's A number. If they do appear in the system but do not have a court date, press 3 to check for old decisions. If it says that a court ordered removal, it means that your loved one will not get a new hearing, and it is extremely important for them to get legal help immediately, as they will be on the fast track to deportation. Some ways to prepare for immigration enforcement besides practicing are know your rights. This presentation and other similar presentations can help equip you for interacting with federal immigration officers. You can also create an emergency plan for you and your family in case you are detained or deported. Choose an emergency contact and memorize their phone number. This should be someone you trust, including someone like your lawyer. Choose a standby guardian for your children. A standby guardian is a person you choose who will take care of your children when you cannot for up to 1 year. Making someone your standby guardian does not mean you are giving up your legal rights as a parent. It only means that you are giving the guardian permission to make certain decisions for your children when you cannot. To learn more about standby guardians, you can call the Action NYC hotline, and the number will be in the next Action NYC slide. Another way you can prepare is by getting a legal checkup to see if you are eligible for an immigration benefit or to learn more about your immigration options. Even if you have consulted with an immigration lawyer in the past, you may want to do so again in case some things have changed. And you should get an immigration legal checkup if you have concerns about your immigration status or would like to learn more about your eligibility for an immigration benefit like a green card or citizenship, or if you need help with an immigration application, or if you would just like to consult with a safe, free immigration legal service provider. If you would like to learn more about your rights as an immigrant New Yorker or make a complaint against your employer, you can call 311. MOIA provides legal service support through their constituent service line and Action NYC. Action NYC will connect you to a free and safe immigration legal help in your New York City community and in your language. Action NYC provides free, comprehensive, and confidential legal screenings to determine eligibility for immigration benefits. Free, safe immigration legal help for a range of immigration benefits, including citizenship, green card applications and renewals, deferred action for childhood arrivals, DACA, temporary protected status, and so much more. Action NYC is located in neighborhoods, schools, and hospitals through the 5 boroughs. You can make an appointment by calling 1-800-354-0365 between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. Monday to Friday, or call 311 and say Action NYC. Action NYC hotline is a toll-free live hotline that can connect you to immigration legal help and answer your immigration and naturalization questions. The hotline provides assistance in more than 200 languages. Through the hotline, you can ask general immigration and naturalization questions, receive an immigration legal appointment, obtain referrals to immigrant-related programs. Again, call 1-800-354-0365 or call 311 and say Action NYC to connect with a live operator, and all calls are confidential. All New Yorkers should get a COVID-19 test whether or not they have symptoms or are at increased risk. If you have already been tested and were negative, you can get another test if you are having COVID-19 symptoms or are concerned with possible exposure. The Test and Trace Corps is an initiative to stop COVID-19 infections in New York City and help the city open back up. If you test positive, you will receive a call from a tracer who will ask you if you need more medical attention, help you arrange to isolate at home or at a free hotel, and create a list of everyone you had contact with since shortly before the onset of symptoms. If you test positive, a tracer will also facilitate healthcare as well as mental health services and get meal and medication delivery. Free testing, regardless of immigration status or whether you have insurance, is available at the following locations. NYC Health and Hospitals operates multiple COVID-19 testing sites throughout the 5 boroughs. The location information can be found on the NYC Health and Hospitals website. CityMD, through partnership with the New York City government, offers testing at all of its New York City sites on a walk-in basis 7 days a week. You can visit CityMD for locations and hours through the 5 boroughs. Advantage Care Physicians has partnered with the New York State government to offer testing at 22 sites in New York City. Visiting ACPNY's website for more information. There are hundreds of convenient testing sites across the city, as well as mobile testing units visiting different locations through the 5 boroughs. And for more information, you can visit nyc.gov/COVID tests. Rapid COVID-19 testings are also available. You can now make an appointment for a free rapid COVID-19 virus test at multiple COVID Express testing sites throughout the city. Test results will be available within 24 hours or less of your visit. COVID-19 tests performed at COVID Express testing sites will be free to all New Yorkers, regardless of immigration status. Testing will be available by appointment only, and the fastest way to make an appointment is to choose a time through the DOH-MH online schedule holder. COVID-19 treatment. As important as it is to be able to access coronavirus testing, it is critical that you can access healthcare services if you do get sick with COVID-19. First, if you have health insurance, it is important to remember that all health insurance plans must cover COVID-19 testing without any out-of-pocket payments. Second, New York State Emergency Medicaid covers COVID-19 testing and treatment without any out-of-pocket payments for low-income uninsured residents, including undocumented immigrants. If you want to sign up for emergency Medicaid in advance, contact NYC Department of Health Insurance Enrollers by visiting the DOH-MH website. Or you can also call 311 and say, "Get covered." Third, if you have disputes with hospitals or doctors about medical bills or disagree with health insurance plans about eligibility or coverage, or just have questions about navigating the healthcare and health insurance system, you can call the CHA Community Health Advocates hotline at 1-888-614-5400. CHA has a language line that can provide translation services in more than 170 languages. There are now 2 vaccines approved for use, Pfizer and Moderna. Both vaccines are safe and more than 94% effective. You cannot get COVID-19 from the vaccine. If you are concerned about getting the vaccine, you should speak to your doctor. The vaccine is free to all New Yorkers regardless of immigration status. You do not need to share your immigration status, and your privacy will be protected. New York State is expanding COVID-19 vaccine eligibility in phases to make sure the most vulnerable people in the community can get the vaccine first. We're currently in Phase 1B Expansion 2, but most New Yorkers will likely be able to get the vaccine by mid-2021. In this expansion, the following underlying conditions are eligible: cancer, current or remission, chronic kidney disease, pulmonary disease, including but not limited to COPD, pulmonary fibrosis, cystic fibrosis, and 9/11 related pulmonary diseases, intellectual and developmental disabilities, including Down syndrome, heart conditions, Immunocompromised state, which is your weakened immune system, severe obesity or obesity, pregnancy, sickle cell disease or thalassemia, type 1 or 2 diabetes, cerebrovascular disease, neurologic conditions, or liver disease. To be eligible, you must also live or work in the New York State. Proof of residence or employment is currently required. A letter from your employer, a driver's license, an ID NYC are all acceptable. How to get an appointment. First, make sure you are eligible. As mentioned earlier, you can check who is currently eligible at www.nyc.gov/site/COVID-19-vaccine-eligibility.page. Second, make an appointment. An appointment is required at all sites for Pfizer and Moderna. If you are eligible, you can make an appointment by calling 1-877-829-4692. Third, select your preferred site to see all available appointments. Some sites can be booked online and some need to be called directly. This is specified on the vaccine finder. Once you selected your preferred site, fill out any required forms, and this may be different depending on the site you choose. The appointment for your second dose of vaccine will be scheduled after you receive your first dose. Your second dose appointment will be about 1 month later and must be done at the same location. So just to review, I do appreciate you all for participating. We have a couple slides after this, but I want to give you guys a chance to just quickly review and ask any questions. If an ICE agent wants to enter a private space, they need a judicial warrant. You have the right to ask to speak to your lawyer before talking to ICE or signing any documents, and you can call 311 for any details on city services. This is just a chance for anyone who has any questions before we continue. There's a couple more slides after this, but just in case there was anything that needed a quick overview.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Well, we'll let you get a little sip of water. And I just want to remind viewers of a few things. Number one, there was a lot of information, very, very good information that was shared here tonight. And the session is recorded, so you can share this with your friends and family or anyone that you think can benefit right on Facebook, or share from our YouTube channel. So the recording is there and will be there right after the program ends. So if you find the information valuable and you want to share it, you can do so. Also, if you want to come back and refer to something that was shared in the presentation, maybe a phone number, maybe some of the sample warrants and so on and so forth that Sister Fatema shared with us, you can, again, just go back to our Facebook page, find the video, or it's going to be right on our YouTube channel, and you can find the spot in the presentation that has that phone number and is readily accessible to you. So I wanted to make sure that you had that information. Also, as a reminder, if you want to submit a question, you can do so by just typing in the comments right in Facebook. We'll get it and we can put it up on the screen, or you can submit a question by going to go.as-siddiq.org/family, and there's a very short Google form there. You can just type in and submit your questions. We actually have a couple of questions that came in, so we'll get started with the first question, inshallah. So the first one that came in, Sister Fatema says, is it possible to sue ICE for unfair treatment or harassment or assault? So if you feel that you've been treated unfairly, is it possible to sue ICE?
Well, I guess that's why that whole idea that if you do tell them you do not consent, that just helps you with a legal case later on. So I'm not sure if you can sue them, but you can open a case up for them, and that by you telling them you don't consent to either coming into your home or checking your belongings only helps you later on with the case. Obviously, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't exactly know the correct answer, but that's the gist of it, if that answers your question.
Thank you. Our next question has to do with immigration status, and I think you've covered this question in the presentation around vaccines. So the questioner asks, does my immigration status affect my eligibility for the vaccine?
No. Even when you go in for either COVID test, a rapid test, or a vaccination, they don't ask about your immigration status. The only thing you will need to show is either that you work in New York State or that you live here. So proof of residency, whether that's a driver's license or a piece of mail, etc. Your immigration status does not affect your eligibility anyway.
That's great. Thanks for that clarification. And it's important also, we wanted to provide the immigration information in terms of legal status and legal education, I should say, for all of us to be informed about immigration status, but also take the opportunity to make sure that we're all informed about COVID-19, the vaccine, and information on where to go. We do have one other question that came in at this time. I don't know if there's going to be any more, but at least for now, one other question. The questioner looks like someone who is an undergraduate in college, and if they are interested in getting involved with immigration work or activism, how can they get involved? Any organizations they can reach out to?
Obviously, I work for CAIR, so if you are interested, CAIR has tons of volunteer opportunities, and they do offer internships and fellowships, so you can apply on their website. There are multiple other organizations such as Muslim Advocates, which is also another one. So you can reach out to any of them, and inshallah, that way you can help out. And obviously, things like rallies and protests that support activism and advocacy, those are also great ways to help out.
Yeah, I just want to add to that if someone is interested, obviously we have contacts at CAIR as well, so you can definitely reach out directly on the CAIR site, CAIR New York site, if you're interested specifically about CAIR New York, or you can reach out to the masjid and we can put you in touch with someone who at CAIR who can assist in that area. Let me just check for any more questions. I don't see any more questions coming in here. Just want to maybe take an opportunity to call out Sister Khairul. Sister Khairul Khan just gave us a thumbs up and said it was wonderful information tonight. So we thank Sister Khairul for watching and sharing feedback with us. I know there was a few other people out there, just giving salams and liking and so on and so forth. So we appreciate your feedback as always. Anything you put in the comments, we might want to take a look at and be able to share with the public as well. So we thank you all for your feedback and joining us here tonight. So I think that's it for questions. Maybe Sister Fatema will turn it back to the last couple of slides, and then we can wrap up.
Awesome. So city services and resources. In New York City, there are several services and rights available to all New Yorkers, regardless of status. Under the New York City law, specifically Executive Order 34, city services must be available to all immigrants so long as the immigrants meet the other eligibility requirements that includes undocumented immigrants. Okay, so protection from discrimination, in the workplace. All employers in New York City with 4 or more employees must comply with New York City human rights law, regardless of whether their employees are full-time or part-time, permanent or temporary, paid on the books or off the books, are paid or unpaid interns. Some provisions of the law protect employees regardless of the size of their businesses. Employers cannot pay workers lower wages or no wage because of their immigration status, harass or make fun of workers because of their nationality, religious belief, attire, accent, or immigration status. They cannot punish workers for speaking their own language. They cannot threaten workers about calling the police because of their immigration status. And they cannot refuse to hire someone because of their nationality, religious belief, attire, or accent. In a public space, the New York City Commission on Human Rights protects individuals from discrimination here as well. Anyone who provides goods and services to the general public is considered a public accommodation. It is against the city human rights law for a public accommodation to withhold or refuse to provide full and equal enjoyment of those goods or services based on the following protected classes under law: age, alienage, or citizenship status, color, disability, gender, gender identity, marital or partnership status, national origin, pregnancy, race, religion, creed, sexual orientation, status as veteran or active military service member. Examples of public accommodations are stores, banks, medical or dental offices, government agencies, hair salons, hospitals, hotels, theaters, restaurants, schools, and taxis. The city has made significant investments to ensure pantries where you can get groceries and community kitchens where you can get warm prepared food are well stocked. While pandemic related logistical challenges forced some of these places to scale down their work, others are expanding their operation and serving New Yorkers every day. These places serve everyone whether you are documented or not. You can find the nearest location by visiting the Food Bank NYC website. In addition, the city itself is running hundreds of meal hubs where you can pick up 3 meals for a person each day. You can pick up for your family members and others as well. No ID or registration is required, and the city has made efforts to ensure these meal hubs are available in areas where access to pantries and soup kitchens is limited. You can visit the meal hub locator website or call 311 or text food to 877-877 to find a location near you. The city is also delivering meals to individuals who cannot leave home, do not have anyone to bring food, and cannot afford private delivery. No documentation is needed. You just have to answer the survey questions, and you can visit the website and fill out the online survey or call 311 and say, "Get food." Lastly, while this is not a city program, I want to make sure you are aware of pandemic EBT. If you have a child who goes to a New York City public school, you can receive $420 for every child in an EBT card that can be used for purchase of food and groceries. You do not have to apply or do anything. The card should automatically be mailed to you. However, if you are worried if the New York State government has the right address for you or wondering why you still have not gotten the card, you can contact the state OTDA, which is in charge of the federal funded program, by calling 833-452-0096 or email otda.sm.eisp.pebt@otda.ny.gov. And that's it. Again, if there are still any questions, you can put them in the chat, as Brother Ayam mentioned before. If you have questions afterwards, you can either email Masjid As-Siddiq and inshallah they'll forward it to CAIR, or you can leave a question on CAIR or find an email from our website.
Thank you, Sister Fatima. I think this, again, was very, very informative, and we really appreciate your time tonight, and more so also CAIR New York for putting together such a comprehensive public service announcement. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you and CAIR for the work that they're doing, that you are all doing for our community. As a little bit of an endorsement here from Masjid As-Siddiq, we know that CAIR protects the civil liberties and empowers American Muslims, and they're doing a lot of good work in terms of not only public service and public education, but also helping to provide things like pro bono advice, legal advice, and so on when needed. So I would like to just ask if anyone would like to contribute and help the work that CAIR New York is doing. You can go to their website, cair-ny.org, and it's pretty easy to just make a donation there. Or you could also let us know at Masjid As-Siddiq and provide that back to us. I know that we had a very informative session. I see Sister Zarina Khan also saying, thanks for caring, CAIR, and Masjid As-Siddiq. She will share with her friends. We thank you, Sister Zarina, for joining us tonight. We again pray that it is beneficial and helpful for you and or anyone that seeks some advice in this area. I just, in closing here tonight, again want to thank Sister Fatima for her time, and a little bit of some announcements from Masjid As-Siddiq's standpoint. Next Sunday at 6 p.m., our sisters has a special prep for Ramadan session. You can register for the session at go.asiddiq.org/sisters. That's go.asiddiq.org/sisters. And then also on April 4th, we will be partnering with the New York Blood Center for our blood drive. So if you can remember, we've been doing the blood drive annually for about 4 or 5 years. Unfortunately, last year, because of COVID, we were not able to do the blood drive. We still have a lot of people in New York that are in hospitals and not able and need blood. And so this is important in order for us to maybe help do our part in this regard. So it's going to be on April 4th. We'll have more information that we'll send out to everybody. You can register and have information on how to donate blood. Also, if you've had COVID, I know that the New York Blood Center is looking for people with antibodies. So if you've had COVID, this generally does not mean that you can't donate blood. It actually might mean that your blood has more benefit than somebody who did not have COVID. So more information is coming out on the blood drive, so stay tuned for that, inshallah. So again, with that, we appreciate your time this evening and thank everybody for joining. We'll close with the dua. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik, wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, wa nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Wal asr, innal insana lafi khusr, illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihat, wa tawasaw bil haqq, wa tawasaw bis sabr. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.